The old wooden train station stood like a relic of the Wild West, its planks creaking under the endless dusty winds. Wagons rolled by, cowboys stepped in and out of the saloon across the street, and families reunited with embraces after long journeys. Yet, for 3 whole days, one woman remained seated on the worn bench at the edge of the platform, alone, unclaimed, unnoticed. Her name was Clara. She had stepped off the train clutching nothing more than a faded satchel and a heart filled with fragile hope. She wasn't from this town. Her life back east had been reduced to ashes after losing her parents and the only family she had. She had boarded the westbound train because somewhere deep inside, she believed there was still a place for her. Maybe here, among strangers, she could start again. But 3 days had passed, and no one had come. Every new train brought laughter, tears, and homecomings for others, never for her. She endured the stares of townsfolk who whispered about the abandoned lady at the station. Each night, she curled her shawl around her shoulders against the cold prairie air, too proud to beg, too frightened to move on. By the morning of the 3rd day, Clara's eyes burned from sleepless nights. She thought of leaving, but where would she go? She had no money, no family, and no promise of work. She whispered a prayer beneath her breath. Lord, if you still have a plan for me, please let me see it. That was when a small voice pierced through the clamor of horses' hooves and train whistles. There she is. That's her. Can you be my mama? Clara blinked. Standing in front of her was a little girl, no older than 6, her auburn braids flying loose as she ran forward. Her dress was patched, her shoes dusty from the dirt road. But her eyes, those wide, hopeful eyes, looked at Clara as if she were a long-awaited miracle. Behind the child stood a tall rancher, his hat pulled low, his weathered face lined with both strength and sorrow. He looked startled, as though the words had taken him by surprise too. He reached for the girl's shoulder, but she clung tightly to Clara's skirt. The woman's throat tightened. Sweetheart, she whispered, I think you've mistaken me. But the little girl shook her head fiercely. No, I prayed for a mama. And God sent you. The rancher cleared his throat, his deep voice carrying both authority and hesitation. I'm sorry, miss. My daughter. She lost her mother last winter. She's been prayin' mighty hard for someone to come. Looks like she thinks you're the answer. Clara looked down at the girl, who nestled against her as though she had always belonged there. For the first time in years, Clara felt something warm stir inside her chest, something she thought had died. Maybe, she said softly, brushing a strand of hair from the child's cheek, maybe God answered us both. The rancher studied Clara for a long moment. She could see his guarded heart in his eyes, wounded by grief, wary of strangers. Yet there was something else, too. A flicker of recognition, as though he had been waiting as much as his daughter had, though he never dared to hope. What's your name? He asked. Clara Bennett, she replied, steadying her voice. And I believe your little girl has just given me a reason to stay. The rancher introduced himself as James Whitaker, owner of a cattle spread just beyond the hills. He offered Clara his hand, not just as a courtesy, but as a tentative bridge to something larger. You'll come out with us then? Clara hesitated only a moment. The station had been her prison of waiting, but perhaps it had also been her place of destiny. She glanced at the little girl, who beamed as though all her prayers had come true. Yes, Clara said, taking his hand. I'll come. That night, Clara left the lonely station behind. The dusty road stretched ahead, leading not to uncertainty but to a ranch where a grieving child had found her mother, and where a weary rancher had perhaps found hope again. And for Clara, who had spent 3 long days waiting for someone to claim her, it turned out she had been claimed after all, not by chance, but by love itself.